Hey y'all, welcome back to Dixie Made for Dixie Life. Today I thought I'd share one of my absolute favorite stories from my family's history. Grave robbers or body snatchers were once far more common, particularly in the 18th and 19th centuries. During this time, medical schools had a high demand for cadavers for anatomical study, but legal bodies were scarce, prompting a black market for human remains. This led to frequent raids on fresh graves to sell the bodies to medical institutions. The practice was so widespread that families often took extra precautions to protect their loved ones, placing heavy cages over burial sites or hiring guards. Grave robbing declined as laws changed to allow legal means of acquiring cadavers for medical research, but the practice remains a reminder of the past. Some grave robbers would dig up the recently buried for the sole purpose of stealing any valuables, such as jewelry, buried with the deceased. This story from my family's history is about my seventh great-grandmother. It's from the 1700s. Since the first time I've heard the story, I've been fascinated with it. I mean, seriously, as creepy and morbid as it is, I literally wouldn't be here today if not for grave robbers. Who knew such good could come from thieves that would disturb graves and steal from the dead? John Harrell arrived and settled in Society Hill, South Carolina, along with a group of English, Scottish, and Welsh settlers. John married Mary Peacock, who was said to be a beautiful bride, but their happiness, it seems, was short-lived. Mary passed away less than a year into their marriage. It was decided to bury Mary in her white satin wedding dress, since they had only been married a short time. She was also buried wearing a wedding ring and other precious jewelry given to her by her husband. That night, grave robbers dug up her grave to steal the jewels from the dead. When the robbers were unable to remove the diamond ring from her swollen finger, they cut it off. Blood flowed freely from the wound. As it turns out, she wasn't truly dead. This frightened the thieves, who quickly ran away, terrified, and leaving her dug-up body behind. Mary was apparently only unconscious or in a comatose state. The severing of her finger woke her up from her literal dead sleep. She is said to have risen from her grave, walked to her nearby home, and knocked on the door. John, her husband, surely must have been startled, frightened, and joyous to have opened the door in the night to see his beautiful bride in her wedding dress and standing at his door looking much like she had on their wedding day, less than a year earlier. I mean, can you even imagine the fear and then the delight? Months later, Mary gave birth to their only son, Lewis Harrell, the only child they were to have together, as shortly after she passed away for real this time. Their son Lewis grew up and married Sarah Perkins, and together they had 7 children together. With modern times and medicine, between medical professionals, hospice care, coroners, and funeral home staff, it would be virtually impossible for a person to now be buried alive. Even if somehow a live person were to be transported to a funeral home without someone recognizing breathing or a heartbeat, embalming would make burying alive impossible. Back in the 1700s and 1800s, though, most people died at home, and many after illnesses. A comatose or unconscious person to a non-medical professional would appear to be dead instead of just in a state of deep sleep. Since most families prepared the body and buried their own, usually very quickly following death, there was a slim possibility of people being buried alive. Makes you wonder how many through the years were. Creepy thought for sure. Thanks for taking a little walk with me through family history and through the past. Hope you enjoyed this favorite story of mine from my history, and how the fact that I wouldn't be here today if not for grave robbers. Thanks, y'all. See you next time.